memorable from BTM forward. I'll explain to you what I've learned in my subject Diplo. I will talk about the dresses. I will talk about the personal skills that I want about a diplomat, and I will talk about also the privileges and immunities of a diplomat. First thing I would like you to know that there are three dresses of a diplomat. First is the morning coat, the next is the tailcoat, and the dinner jacket. I explain to you the first dress. The first dress is morning coat. Morning coat used for farewell dinner, wear with black tie and medals. The next is tailcoat. Tailcoat or white tie is used to pair the white tie, white sleeves, black coat, and sash. And the last is the dinner jacket. Dinner jacket, the aka black tie or smoking, used for White House gathering nation. So as you can see, the dresses of a diplomat is very cool, right? They have dresses for like gathering like this, and also the way they dress, it is very impressive because in how they dress, it also represent their country. So it is really great to know that things in matter of knowing the this day I will use morning just because we have a farewell dinner paired with black tie with medals, right? And tomorrow I'll have a gathering in the White House, so I use dinner jacket. So it's very useful and very nice to know that there's some dresses that has diplomats that very good, that they are really in good shape to use and wear those clothes. About the personal skills that I want the diplomat has. Skill in management under mission. The one that I really love the personal skills is having skills in management under mission. Skill in management under mission. This must be able to manage their own embassy. Managing your own embassy is having a good camaraderie of your employees, and also it represents your country, that your country has a good camaraderie to create a great relationship to other countries. So it's really good to show that all people of your office that has a good workplace communication. So it's really cool that you have like that skills in managing your good mission. Second is intellectual discipline of foreign policy. Intellectual discipline of foreign policy, he knows how to interpret international laws. So interpreting international laws means to avoid war. So if you know how to interpret the national law, you know what are the rules and regulations that you should follow as being a diplomat, or as your country knows the boundaries of what you need or what you do not need to do to other countries. Having a good interpreter in international law of being a diplomat is making a good communication to other countries that, oh, the diplomat said that you should do this, Mr. President. So the president knows what needs to be done. So they have a good relationship. So they don't get misunderstanding that can cause if you don't know the international law or you don't know how to interpret the international law. Third one is skills in representation. Skills in representation is proper skills in communication, gesture, attitudes, and good clothing. Having a good attitude means that your country also has a good attitude. if you know your good skills in communication, your country knows also that they're good in communication. And also, if you wear nice, you look nice, it means your country is nice and you look good. That's why it is one of the important skills of a diplomat. If you know how to be good, the way you look in others, so they don't think that your country is like that, or it's not bad, it's bad like that. That your country is are really good at communication, have a good gesture and attitude and clothing. If you done, or the diplomat has and all that he is doing like that. So you clear the art of diplomacy. It is you to understand what is the importance of being a diplomat, and how the diplomat creating a relationship, and what are the most important the diplomat need to do if there are some collisions. Please watch and enjoy this video.
I tend to associate the word diplomacy with embassies, international relations, and high politics, but it really refers to a set of skills that matter in many areas of daily life, especially at the office and on the landing outside the slammed doors of loved ones' bedrooms. Diplomacy is the art of advancing an idea or cause without unnecessarily inflaming passions or unleashing a catastrophe. It involves an understanding of the many facets of human nature that can undermine agreement and stoke conflict, and a commitment to unpicking these with foresight and grace. The diplomat remembers first and foremost that some of the vehemence with which we can insist on having our way draws energy from an overall sense of not being respected or heard within a relationship. We will fight with particular tenacity and apparent meanness over a so-called small thing when we have the sense that the other person has failed to honour our wider need for appreciation and esteem. Behind our fierce way of arguing may lie a frustrated plea for affection. Diplomats know the intensity with which humans crave respect, and so though they may not always be able to agree with us, they take the trouble to show that they have bothered to see how things look through our eyes. They recognise that it's almost as important to people to feel heard as to win their case. We'll put up with a lot once someone has demonstrated that they at least know how we feel. Diplomats therefore put extraordinary effort into securing the health of the overall relationship, so that smaller points can be conceded along the way without attracting feelings of untenable humiliation. They know how much beneath pitched fights over money or entitlements, schedules or procedures, a demand for esteem can stir. They are careful to trade generously in emotional currency, so as not always to have to pay excessively in other, more practical denominations. Frequently, what's at stake within a negotiation with someone is a request that they change in some way, that they learn to be more punctual or take more trouble on a task, that they be less defensive or more open-minded. The diplomat knows how futile it is to state these wishes too directly. They know the vast difference between having a correct diagnosis of how someone needs to grow and a relevant way to help them actually do so. They know too that what holds people back from evolution is fear, and therefore grasp that what we may most need to offer those whom we want to acknowledge difficult things is, above anything else, love and reassurance. It helps greatly to know that those recommending change are not speaking from a position of impregnable perfection, but are themselves wrestling with comparable demons in other areas. For a diagnosis not to sound like mere criticism, it helps for it to be delivered by someone with no compunctions to owning up to their own shortcomings. There can be few more successful pedagogic moves than to confess genially from the outset, and I am, of course, entirely mad as well. In negotiations, a diplomat is not addicted to indiscriminate or heroic truth-telling. They appreciate the legitimate place that minor lies can occupy in the service of greater truths. They know that if certain local facts are emphasized, then the most important principles in a relationship may be forever undermined. So they will enthusiastically say that the financial report or the homemade cake were really very pleasing, and will do so not to deceive, but to affirm the truth of their overall attachment, which might be lost were a completely accurate account of their feelings to be laid out. Diplomats know that a small lie may have to be the guardian of a big truth. They appreciate their own resistance to the unvarnished facts and privately hope that others may, on occasion, over certain matters, also take the trouble to lie to them and that they will never realize. Another trait of the diplomat is to be serene in the face of obviously bad behavior. A sudden loss of temper, a wild accusation, a very mean remark. They don't take it personally, even when they may be the target of rage. They reach instinctively for reasonable explanations and have clearly in their minds the better moments of a currently frantic but essentially lovable person. They know themselves well enough to understand that abandonments of perspective are both hugely normal and usually indicative of nothing much beyond exhaustion or passing despair. They don't aggravate a febrile situation through self-righteousness, which is a symptom of not knowing oneself too well and of having a very selective memory. The person who bangs a fist on the table or announces extravagant opinions may simply be rather worried, frightened, or just very enthusiastic, conditions that should rightly invite sympathy rather than disgust. At the same time, the diplomat understands that there are moments to sidestep direct engagement. They don't try to teach a lesson whenever it might first or most apply. They wait until it has the best chance of being heard. At points, they disarm difficult people by reacting in unexpected ways. In the face of a tirade, instead of going on the defensive, the diplomatic person might suggest some lunch. When a harshly unfair criticism is launched at them, they might nod in partial agreement and declare that they've often said such things themselves. They give a lot of ground away and avoid getting cornered in arguments that distract from the deeper issues. They remember the presence of a better version of what might be a somewhat unfortunate individual currently on display. The diplomat's tone of reasonableness is built fundamentally on a base of deep pessimism. They know what the human animal is, they understand how many problems are going to beset even a very good marriage, business, friendship, or society. Their good-humoured way of greeting problems is a symptom of having swallowed a healthy measure of sadness from the outset. They've given up on the ideal, not out of weakness, but out of a mature readiness to see compromise as a necessary requirement for getting by in a radically imperfect world. The diplomat may be polite, but they're not for that matter averse to sometimes delivering bits of bad news with uncommon frankness. Too often we seek to preserve our image in the eyes of others by tiptoeing around the harsh decisions, and thereby make things far worse than they need to be. We should say that we're leaving them, that they're fired, that their pet project isn't going ahead, but we mutter instead that we're a little preoccupied at the moment, that we're delighted by their performance and that the project is being actively discussed by the senior team. We mistake leaving some room for hope with kindness. But true kindness does not mean seeming kind. It means helping the people we're going to disappoint to adjust as best they can to reality. By administering a sharp, clean blow, the diplomatic person kills off the torture of hope.
Next, I will explain to you the privileges and immunities of a diplomat. For me, one of the great privileged immunity of being diplomat, one scenario is the diplomat is exempt from all dues and taxes that are personal or regional or municipal except indirect taxes of kind which normally incorporate in the price of goods and services. This is helpful to the diplomats in a scenario like if you're going to your country that you will be a diplomat. Of course, you will buy a car, a house, or the goods that you need. The houses that you bought, the car that you will get, the food that you will eat, they all has no taxes. So if you're a diplomat, you can save your money. You can represent your country in a greater look of not spending too much, right? So like if you want a very good car that you will use, so you can represent your country that that country has capable to buy like that car. So if you buy that, there's no taxes. You can look, you can be the face of the country of being rich and being powerful as you represent you. So having an exemption of all dues and taxes is very good. One also the privilege breaches that I love is you're not liable to be arrested or to be detention. It is good because even though you are a bad diplomat, still you have a dignity to yourself that you can represent your country. So that your country representing will not be affected because you are respected. But of course, the diplomat should not do something bad. But it is good because really greater image can build a good image to your country. Thank you guys for listening on this video. Thank you, and I hope you learned something. Thank you and God bless.